We're in the cardiovascular system, the heart. When we talk about the cardiovascular system, I want you to think your cardiovascular system like this: the pumps and the pipe. So your heart is like the pump, and your blood vessels are like the pipe, and the blood is the liquid stay inside. It's a closed circle. If you're able to think your cardiovascular system like this, and a lot of things make sense, like you increase the blood pressure, increase the workload of the heart, or you can cause the vessel constriction. When you constrict the blood vessel too much, the pump need to work much harder to send the blood goes through the pipes. And this when you eat too much cholesterol, you block your blood vessel and increase the workload of the heart. So if you are able to think your cardiovascular system like the pumps and the pipes, and it's pretty easy for you to understand how the cardiovascular system works. Your heart have two circuits. So the pulmonary circuit to send the blood to the lung, and the systemic send the blood to the body. And the blood vessels, you have the artery, you have the capillary, you have the vein. So the arteries are the one closer to the heart, and they're gonna have more smooth muscle to take the pressure, because pressure there is high, close to the heart. Capillary is something in between the artery and the vein, so they are small blood vessel. And the veins, they are the ones send the blood back to the heart. Now let's look at the heart. The heart can be divided into 4 different chambers: 2 atria, 2 ventricles. So you have the right side, you have the right atrium, right ventricle. The left side, the left atrium, the left ventricle. And the right side for the pulmonary circulation, they carry deoxygenated blood. The left side, they are for systemic circulation, they carry oxygenated blood. The textbook like to use the red color to represent oxygenated blood, the blue color represent deoxygenated blood. So on the right side, they carry deoxygenated blood from the right atrium to the right ventricle. You're going to send the blood to the lung to carry oxygen. When you go back, you go to the left side. So the left atrium, left ventricle, they carry oxygenated blood. They're going to send the blood to the brain, going to send the blood to the body, to your toe, and come back, become deoxygenated blood. Go to the right side. And your heart surrounded by a double membrane structure called pericardium. The one touch the heart called the visceral pericardium. The one touch the outside called parental pericardium. And the cavity created by is called the pericardial cavity. If you think your heart is like your fist and you squeeze it to the balloon become a double membrane. One cover your fist, one cover the outside, and that's the pericardial cavity. So it's a double membrane structure. And the one touch your heart called the visceral pericardium, and the one touch the outside called parental pericardium. And when you have the heart edema, that's when you have too much liquid accumulate in the pericardial cavity, and it makes the heart more difficult to pump. And these are some terminologies. I'll leave them to you. Okay, so this shows you the heart. You have 2 atrium, the right atrium, left atrium, and the ventricles are the big muscles. So the right ventricle, the left ventricle. And this shows you how the heart really look like. This is the posterior view, so you can still see the left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle. And the left atrium, they have the pulmonary vein connect with the left atrium. So they send the oxygenated blood back to the left atrium. So you have 4 pulmonary veins. And this is the right atrium. They pick up those deoxygenated blood from your body. So it connects with the vena cava. You have the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. The heart muscle can be divided into 3 layers: epicardium, myocardium, and endocardium. And the epicardium, that's the outside layer, and the myocardium, that's the big heart muscle layers. when your heart contract, this layer. And endocardium, this inner layer, they touch the blood. These slides show you those 3 layers. So the outside, the middle, the myocardium, this is the muscle layer, and this is the inside layer. So 3 layers. And when you use the microscope to look at the heart muscle, that's how the heart muscle look like. They all connected together through the interconnected disc. So these are the 3 layers: the pericardium, and there's the myocardium, epicardiums, there's the heart muscle, and there's the endocardium. And heart muscle grow in this structure, so when they contract, they're able to send the physical force from the bottom to the top, and this helps to contract the heart, so they're able to squeeze the blood to the aorta and pulmonary artery. You don't have the blood stay in the bottom. And this slide show you those heart muscle cells, and they're connected together through the interconnected disc. And that's how the cardiac muscle look like. So they still have the sarcomere structure, those light dark pattern, striated pattern. So they tell you those microfiber line up pretty well, and they connected together through the interconnected disc. Your cardiac muscle, and they have nucleus, they put in the center, and they still have the sarcomere organized. So this tell you they can produce a big power. They use the aerobic metabolism. They require a lot of oxygen, and if you stop the oxygen flow, they will start to die in 3 minutes. That's heart attack. And the heart muscle connected together through the interconnected disc. Under interconnected disc, they have desmosome and gap junction. We talk about these 2 junctions in the epithelium tissue. They glue the cell together in the skin. And the desmosome in the heart, they transfer the physical force. So when the heart muscle contract, from the physical force from the first cell can go to the second, go to the third through the desmosome. And the gap junction, they are like ion channel. They remain open. They are like the leak channel. They remain open. So when the heart muscle generate action potential, their ions, sodium, potassium, can go through the gap junction from the first cell to the second cell. So they can transmit action potential. And because of that, the whole heart, they work like one cell when they depolarize. And the wall to separate the left and right heart is called a septum. So you have the interatrial septum that separate 2 atria. And you also have the interventricular septum, separate 2 ventricle. And between the atria and the ventricle, you have valves. All the valves in the cardiovascular system, their job is to make sure the blood go in one direction. They're designed to easily open in one direction and almost impossible to flip over back. So between the atria and the ventricle, you have the atrioventricular valve. And superior inferior vena cava, they are the veins to carry the deoxygenated blood back to the right atria. And the valves between the right atrium and right ventricle is called the right atrioventricular valve. And it's also called the tricuspid valve. And this valve connect through the caudate tendon. These are the string, and connect to the papillary muscle. That's the muscle pull the caudate tendon. And the blood flow from the right ventricle, it will go to the pulmonary trunk. And it will go through another valve called the pulmonary semilunar valve. And now the blood go to the pulmonary trunk. Pulmonary trunk it will diverge out to the left and right. It will go to the two lungs, so it become the pulmonary artery, and send the blood to the lung to carry oxygen. After they carry oxygen, they become oxygenated blood. It will go through the pulmonary vein, and this time it go back to the left atrium. So the oxygenated blood go to the left side. From the left atrium, it will go through the left AP valve, also called bicuspid valve, also called mitral valve. Here's three names. And it will go to the left ventricle. Left ventricle is the big pump, and its job is to send the blood to your whole body. So it will go through the aortic semilunar valve, go to aorta, and go to your whole body. So that's the blood flow. So the previous slides I explained start from the vena cava. Those deoxygenated blood will go to the right atrium. From the right atrium, goes through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle. And from here, it will go through the pulmonary semilunar valve to the pulmonary trunk and to the pulmonary artery, go to the lung to carry oxygen. After they carry oxygen, they will go to the left side from the pulmonary vein, go to the left atrium, go through the bicuspid valve, and go to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, it's ready to send out to the whole body. It will go through the aortic semilunar valve, the one hidden behind here, and go to the aorta. From the aorta, go to the whole body. And these slides also show you the valve. Those valves connect to the caudate tendinate, like those stream, and connect to the papillary muscle. Because of this structure, the valve is designed to open in one direction. It won't be able to flip back. Let's take a short break.